Hello, nice to meet you. I'm Blue River from the Blue Brook Guild. My main account is Blue Bridge Spring Snow. As soon as the friend request was accepted, the message came through. There was no pointless, "Are you there?" He went straight to the point and introduced himself, showing that he was a very confident person. "Hello," Yeshu replied simply. After all, he had been playing Glory for 10 years, so of course he knew one of the three major guilds, Blue Brook Guild. As for Blue Bridge Spring Snow, Yeshu didn't really know who that was. If it were Huang Xiaotian and his Sword Saint character, Troubling Rain, Yeshu would be much more familiar. Blue River obviously had no idea that the person he was trying to befriend was a far superior expert. After all, his main account name, Blue Bridge Spring Snow, was enough to intimidate many players. Confident that the other party already knew who he was, Blue River moved on to the next step. "Brother, are you busy right now?" "Running a dungeon," Yeshu replied. He didn't stop chatting, and after sending the message, both Lord Grim and Haze of Mist entered the Green Forest. "Huh? Which dungeon?" Blue River asked. "Green Forest." Blue River paused for 5 seconds, then came to the only conclusion he could think of. "Power leveling a friend?" "Something like that," Yeshu said. We're short one person for Frost Forest. Are you interested?" Blue River invited. "Huh? Why me?" Yeshu asked. Why him? That question made Blue River feel a bit emotional. The explanation was long enough to talk about all day. First, Lord Grin's team took first clears twice in Spider Cave, making Blue Brook Guild look bad for failing to achieve anything there. Everyone was furious. But after investigating Lord Grim and his teammates, they discovered something unusual. The player who secured first clears and his teammates had previously had conflicts with him. That loudmouth player, Moonlit Sleeper, had been spamming insults about a hidden boss. Based on the timing, it matched when Lord Grim had soloed the Midnight Phantom Cat. The accusation said that Lord Grim had selfishly stolen the boss and deliberately caused a team wipe. Yet, despite that, Moonlit Sleeper still teamed up with him afterward. No one knows exactly what happened in between, but one thing was certain. The team that achieved first clears in Spider Cave wasn't a fixed team. It was a pickup group, and one with internal conflicts. And yet, they still managed to achieve first clears twice. Their strength was clearly extraordinary, and Lord Grim was obviously the core of the team. Despite being labeled shameless for stealing a boss, he was still accepted back. What was he relying on? There was another detail Blue River noticed. In the ranking list, the team leader's name was different each time. The first time, it was Moonlit Sleeper. The second time, it was Lord Grim. The team leader role is important. It can kick members and decide loot distribution. Yet, this team was willing to hand the leadership to someone who previously had stolen a boss. What did that mean? It meant they depended on him. Without him, they couldn't achieve those results. This person was clearly a talent, and likely one without a guild. A player with a guild wouldn't mix into random pickup groups while progressing, nor would they play non-stop for 24 hours. After a full day of gathering information, observation, and analysis, Blue River Guild reached this conclusion. Easy to find 1,000 soldiers, hard to find a general. A talent like this was worth pursuing. That's why Blue River sent 18 consecutive friend requests. If a request isn't accepted or rejected, it can be resent, so he used persistence to show sincerity. And it worked. After ignoring many requests, Yeshu finally accepted. Of course, when asked why he reached out, Blue River didn't give that long explanation. He simply said since the server had just opened and Yeshu already secured 3 first clears, it was obvious he was a top expert, so he hoped to make friends. To be honest, we're preparing to challenge the current record for Frost Forest, but we're missing a top expert like you. If we break the record, the purple gear goes directly to you. How about it? Our guild only wants the record. Blue River didn't rush to recruit Yeshu into the guild. After playing Glory for so long, everyone knew the famous experts in each guild, and no one had ever heard of Lord Grim. Blue River guessed Yeshu was either a top player from another guild, casually playing on a new server, or a lone expert uninterested in guilds. If it were the first case, recruitment was impossible. If it were the second, directly inviting him would likely fail. So Blue River decided to invite him to run a dungeon first, build rapport. Experts could understand each other through gameplay. At the same time, they wanted to verify his strength. As for the promised purple gear, it was a sign of sincerity. Frost Forest only dropped level 25 purple equipment, not worth much. No need to be stingy over low-level items. When Yeshu saw the invitation, his eyes lit up. He quickly replied, "No need for purple gear. If possible, I want something else." "What is it?" Blue River asked. "Rare materials," Yeshu said. Haha, you know your stuff, Blue River replied, realizing this guy was experienced. Purple gear wasn't valuable, rare materials were, since they remained useful long term. 72 strong spider silks. Yes, you named his price. No problem, Blue River agreed immediately. Although strong spider silk was considered rare, it dropped in beginner dungeons with no entry limit. Even normal bosses could drop it, so it was relatively cheap. And one mithril badge from the White Witch, yes, you added. Sure, I can give you that right now, Blue River smiled. Like the skeleton warrior's sword yes you had attained earlier, the badge was just a cosmetic item with no stats, basically worthless, only useful for decoration. And also sharp fangs from white wolves, I want 8. You want strong spider silk, mithril badge, and sharp fangs too? Isn't that a bit much? Blue River started to feel dissatisfied. The White Wolf and the White Witch were both hidden bosses in Frost Forest. Items like the mithril badge, which had no practical value, didn't bother Blue River at all, but the White Wolf's fangs were extremely valuable. Frost Forest wasn't like beginner village dungeons meant for learning. Players could only enter it 4 times per day, and even within those 4 runs, encountering a hidden boss was rare, let alone the fact that only about 1/3 of the time would it even be the White Wolf. If Yeshu had only asked for 8 White Wolf fangs, Blue River wouldn't have hesitated, but asking for 72 strong spider silks and 8 fangs? Blue River felt this guy was insatiably greedy. No wonder he was the type to wipe his entire team just to steal a hidden boss. His skill might be high, but his character was questionable. Was it really appropriate to recruit someone like this into the guild? Blue River began to hesitate. Meanwhile, Yeshu calmly sent another message. Too much? Then I won't take the badge. How about that? Blue River didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He quickly replied, Brother, we both understand this. Stuff like the mithril badge doesn't matter how much you take, but the strong spider silk and white wolf fangs... So what do you think is reasonable? Yeshu asked. Pick one of the 2, Blue River said. This is really a tough choice, Yeshu replied. You can't have both fish and bear's paw, brother, Blue River said sincerely. Then I'll take the white wolf fangs, Yeshu decided. All right, Blue River let out a breath of relief. So how many strong spider silks can I get? Yeshu continued. Blue River almost coughed up blood. How about 40? Yeshu asked. Brother, you really... Blue River didn't know what to say. 30? 25. Is that okay? Yeshu asked. Blue River fell silent for a long time, his hands on the keyboard, but unable to come up with a response. 24? Blue River suddenly softened. The other party had been lowering the amount step by step. Was it really worth haggling over strong spider silk as a member of Blue Brook Guild? Wouldn't that be embarrassing? He slapped the keyboard. Fine, let's go with that. All right. Blue River finally sighed of relief, only for another message to pop up. Then add the mithril badge too. You don't need it anyway, right? Blue River nearly fell off his chair. Who is this guy? The mithril badge had no value, yet he still insisted on squeezing out every bit of profit. What do you even need all this for? Blue River couldn't help but asking. To you, it's worthless, but to some people, it's quite valuable. Yeshu replied. Blue River immediately understood. He was talking about girls who liked accessories. So this guy was trying to pick up girls. One badge would be fine, but asking for so many? How many girls was he planning to charm? Blue River secretly despised him, then asked, So how many do you want? Didn't you say it doesn't matter? Then I'll take all of them, Yeshu said. We don't have many, only 2. Blue River had no choice but to lie, while inwardly cursing himself for saying it doesn't matter. It was true that the item had no real value, but it was still a decoration. Giving it to female guild members was a nice option. Handing them all over to this guy felt like a waste. ... Yeshu responded with complete silence, making Blue River blush. The lie was painfully obvious, but since he had already said it, he forced himself to continue. Let's just go with that, okay? Okay. If a hidden boss appears, how will the loot be distributed? Yeshu asked. We roll dice, Blue River answered decisively. ... Silence again. Blue River sighed. Someone so focused on gaining advantage wouldn't be fooled by that. Rolling dice sounded fair, but there were 4 of them and only one of him. Obviously, they have the advantage. The other party clearly understood this. Haha, just kidding. Blue River quickly changed his tone. If a hidden boss appears, we probably won't break the record anyway. Wouldn't that waste your effort? How about this? If anything drops, you get first pick. Good. Deal. Yeshu agreed. So when are you coming? We're already at Frost Forest. Blue River asked. Wait a bit, I'll finish this dungeon and then come, Yeshu replied. All right, Blue River nodded, then looked at Yeshu's name in his friends list. By the way, are you going to advance your class first? No need, I'll just go like this for now. Blue River was stunned. Ugh, gotta finish this dungeon first, Yeshu replied. So Blue River silently closed the chat window. The more he thought about it, the more something felt off. After thinking for a while, he suddenly slapped his thigh. What was he doing? His original goal was to invite this guy to run a dungeon together and build rapport, but instead he had spent all his time negotiating payment, completely changing the nature of things. It felt like he was hiring someone for a job. Did Blue Brook Guild really need to hire people? Thinking about it this way, Blue River suddenly felt regret over all the rewards he had bargained for. It felt like he was just giving them away for nothing. But then he remembered the condition for getting those rewards was breaking the dungeon record. Blue River froze. Being short one player was just an excuse. Blue Brook Guild had 40 experts in the new server. How could they possibly lack one to form a 5-man team? The short one excuse was a pretext. Breaking the record was the real shared goal. To be honest, Blue River didn't believe that adding just any random person would break the record. At midnight, when dungeon entries reset, he had already led his guild's strongest team to run Frost Forest 3 times. Their completion times were consistently close to the current record held by Herb Garden. If simply adding one person could change that, wouldn't that mean this person was stronger than their elites? Blue River believed Lord Grimm was talented, but not necessarily stronger than their elites. But this guy had seriously negotiated rewards. Did he actually think he could break the record? He was only level 20 and even said he wouldn't advance his class, and yet he still thought he could set a new record. Blue River, how is it going with that guy? One of his teammates, an expert named Ji Chao, asked. He's coming. Who's giving up their spot for him? Blue River looked at the others. I'll take a break, one of them said. After Blue River nodded, that player immediately left the team. The remaining 4 crouched at the dungeon entrance waiting for Lord Grimm's arrival, while Blue River's heart remained full of doubt. After knocking down the Dark Knight Cat Demon, Yishu quickly picked up 3 of its claws. Adding the 6 he had collected earlier, he now had a total of 9, meeting his requirement perfectly. That was definitely something to celebrate. Besides that, he also got 4 Dark Knight Cat Demon Claw. He didn't need these himself, but someone else surely would. After helping those guys break the dungeon record, asking for an item trade in return probably wouldn't be refused. With that in mind, Yi Shu had Lord Grimm leave the dungeon while Soft Mist directly logged out. After resting 10 minutes to remove the exhausted state, he returned to the newbie village and spent all 1,225 skill points. At level 20, players normally have 1,250 skill points, but thanks to a skill book, Lord Grimm had an extra 5 points, giving him a slight edge. Once his skills were set, he immediately left the newbie village and officially stepped onto the continent of glory. From this point on, the system no longer managed player distribution. The area around the Frost Forest was packed with players everywhere. Many dungeons in Glory didn't have fixed entrances. For example, Frost Forest itself was the dungeon, and players could enter from any direction. "Where are you guys? I'm at Frost Forest," Yishu asked. The outskirts of Frost Forest were bustling. After leaving the newbie village, the player market had started to take shape, and this area became the first trading hub. Many players had set up stalls. Yishu browsed a few while walking, but the prices were all over the place. Those who didn't understand the market overpriced everything, afraid of losing out. Those who did understand wouldn't sell rare materials yet, only putting up level 20 equipment. This equipment appealed to players who leveled through quests, since quest rewards were usually green gear, 1 tier below blue gear. Like Lord Grimm, who was leveled through dungeons and was already fully equipped in blue gear. After checking a few stalls without finding anything useful, Blue River's message arrived, with coordinates. Yishu hurried over. Soon, Lord Grimm entered the sight of Blue River's team, and all 4 of them gasped. The top expert they had been paying attention to in Server 10 looked incredibly fashionable. His gear was a complete mix of styles. What on earth was this? The 4 stared in shock at Lord Grimm's equipment. In Glory, there was no inspect function, so players judged gear by appearance. Lord Grimm was wearing all 5 armor types: cloth, leather, chain, plate, and light armor. This kind of mix was common in the newbie village, but not here. Once players reached level 20 and changed class, they specialized in one armor type. Occasionally, mixing pieces happened, but someone wearing all 5 types from head to toe like Lord Grimm was unheard of. While they were still stunned, Yishu had Lord Grimm moved over, put on his headset, and tested the mic. "Got it," Blue River replied. "Hello, everyone," Yishu greeted. "Hello. Let me introduce. This is Blue River, and these are Bound Boat, Flowing Lanterns, and Thunderclap, the top elites of our guild." "Hello, hello. Give me a moment. Sorry about that." And then Lord Grimm suddenly stopped moving. The others immediately started typing furiously in the team chat. Did you find the wrong guy? Flowing Lanterns asked. Don't be ridiculous, Blue River replied. He hasn't even changed class, Thunderclap asked. He said he'd think about it later. With him like this, can he really help us break the record? Flowing Lanterns doubted. If not, then whatever. Our goal is to test his true skill anyway, Blue River said. Not sure about anything else, but I can tell how deep his ID is, Thunderclap joked. What do you mean? Lord Grim, not to laugh. Is he here to be a joke? Don't judge by appearance. He hasn't changed class yet. This is normal, Blue River said, though even he wasn't fully convinced. After years in glory, he had never seen someone dressed this freely. Maybe he plans to play as an unspecialized character, Boundboat suddenly spoke up. As a veteran player, he remembered that long ago, people had tried this playstyle. Unspecialized? That's outdated. Didn't it become impossible after level 50 because there's no awakening quest? Flowing Lantern said. Back when Glory's level cap first increased from 50 to 55, players needed to complete an awakening quest to level further. Unspecialized characters had no such quest, so they were stuck at level 50. That 5-level gap meant a huge difference in stats and skills, and as the cap kept increasing, the gap only widened. Everyone knew the playstyle had become obsolete. Maybe he plans to switch classes at level 50, Flowing Lantern suggested. Wouldn't that mess up stat growth? Thunderclap wondered. No idea. Who even thinks about that nowadays? Flowing Lanterns replied. They fell silent. As elite players, this was something they had never needed to consider. Who wouldn't change classes at level 20? Why are we guessing? Let's just ask him. Flowing Lantern stepped forward. Hey, aren't you changing classes because you want to play an unspecialized character? No response. Hey, you there? He called again. He said to wait. He's probably away, Blue River said. If he's unspecialized, does he carry all weapons? Thunderclap circled Lord Grim curiously. Lord Grim's headends were empty because Yi Shu placed his weapon, My Ute Manifestation Umbrella, into the equipment editor. Once placed inside, the weapon lost its original appearance. The editor displayed its structural blueprint, which was extremely complex, spanning multiple screens. At that moment, Yi Shu carefully took out the claws he had collected from the Dark Knight Cat Demon and began attaching them to the tip of the umbrella structure in the blueprint. 1, 2, 3. Yeshu's usual lazy, lifeless expression was gone. His eyes didn't blink. His face was intensely focused. His right hand was steady as he inserted the claws of the Dark Knight Cat Demon one by one. Without the slightest deviation, he placed all 8 claws perfectly before finally letting out a long breath. His right hand moved again. With a click, he rotated the structural blueprint of the Myriad Manifestations umbrella slowly and carefully. He removed the 8 ribs supporting the umbrella from the central joint, then detached the joint itself. The joint had an intricate design, but Yeshu quickly tossed it aside into a nearby slot. In another slot beside it lay the Dark Knight Cat's Eye gem he had obtained earlier. He clicked Duplicate, and a progress bar appeared. The gem began spinning and polishing continuously. When the bar filled, the gem had taken on the exact shape of the original joint. Yeshu stored the old joint in the system's material inventory and installed the newly duplicated gem joint into the umbrella. Then, one by one, he reinserted the 8 ribs, each producing a soft click. Once all were in place, the blueprint returned to its complete form. He carefully inspected everything again, then finally exhaled in relief. Staring at the blueprint in the equipment editor, Yeshu lit a cigarette and fell into a daze. The essence of self-made equipment lay in modifying the structural blueprint and researching materials. Most of the research for the umbrella had already been completed. Any unfinished parts already had planned solutions. The only uncertainty now lay beyond level 50, because when the umbrella was first created, Glory only had a level cap of 50. Yeshu clicked Confirm. Another progress bar appeared. On the screen, an animation of the umbrella's blueprint moved and assembled itself. When the bar completed, the animation stopped. Several small details had changed. The top joint and the 8 claws now embedded along the edge of the umbrella's surface. He closed the editor and returned to the game. Checking Lord Grim's inventory, the weapon stats hadn't changed yet, but when he clicked it, Lord Grim flicked the umbrella open and flipped it into spear form. At the spear tip, the 8 claws of the Dark Knight Cat Demon were embedded into the ribs, sharp, curved, and gleaming with a cold light, looking extremely deadly. Checking the stats again, they had clearly changed. Myriad Manifestations Umbrella, Spear Form, Level 15. Weight, 2.3 kilograms. Attack speed, 5. Physical attack, 290. Magical attack, 220. Compared to its umbrella form, the magical attack barely increased, but the physical attack had jumped by 110 points. Compared to white, green, blue, purple, and even orange weapons of the same level, it surpassed them by a margin equivalent to 5 to 25 levels. The sudden appearance of the weapon startled Blue River and his team, who had been watching. Even as elite players, they couldn't recognize it. "You're back?" Blue River said as he stepped forward and sent a team invite. "Yeah," Yeshi replied, joining the party. "Join our guild first. That way when we break the dungeon record, our guild name will show up." Blue River added another invite. "Got it." Yeshu accepted, officially joining the Blue Brook Guild. "So shall we start?" Blue River asked. "Wait a moment," Yeshu said. He had already examined their gear and deduced their classes. Blue River, Blade Master, Sword Class, wielding a level 20 purple weapon, Flaming Sun. Bound Boat, Priest, Cleric, wielding a level 20 purple claws. Flowing Lanterns, Paladin, wielding a level 20 purple battle axe. Thundercrap, Elementalist, wielding a level 20 purple staff. Their equipment was mostly blue with a few purple pieces, clearly supported by guild resources rather than individual ability alone. "What now?" Flowing Lanterns asked impatiently. "If you want to break the record, I suggest adjusting the team composition." "How?" Blue River asked. "No priest," Yeshu said bluntly. "What?" Flowing Lantern snapped immediately. "No priest? Are you kidding?" "Replace the priest with another DPS. That'll increase speed," Yeshu calmly explained. "My friend, that doesn't sound very reliable," Blue River said cautiously. "It's a bit more pressure, but you're all skilled. If you focus on dodging, healing won't be necessary." "Healing isn't for us, it's for the tank," someone said. "Right, so my point is, you don't need a tank either. Paladin damage is too low. Replace it with a stronger DPS. "What the hell?" Flowing Lanterns exploded. "No tank? Sure, skill matters for the mobs, but what about the boss? Who's controlling aggro?" "You," he said. "You? What do you mean, you?" Flowing Lanterns was furious. "I'll handle aggro," Yeshu said simply. Silence fell over the team. "So you're saying a full DPS team of 5? Blue River frowned. "Exactly. That's the fastest way to clear." "Do you think this is a newbie dungeon?" Flowing Lanterns shouted. "No matter the dungeon, full offense is always fastest." "That's true, but will we even survive?" Blue River countered. "Of course, but I want to be the one calling the shots." Now even Blue River was speechless. Not only was Yeshu removing 2 members, he was also taking command. "Fine," Flowing Lantern suddenly shouted. "I want to see what you're capable of. Bounce Boat, leave the team and get someone else." With that, Flowing Lanterns immediately quit the party. Bounce Boat hesitated, still unsure, when Thunderclap called out. "So you're leaving so you won't lose EXP if we wipe?" "Stay and die if you want," Flowing Lanterns shot back, then urged again. "Bounce Boat, hurry up, I'll call someone." The tension in the team instantly rose. After hesitating for a moment, Hezo clearly wasn't as impulsive as Deng Huoye. He stayed in the party and messaged Lan He. "What should we do now?" "What do you think?" Lan He asked back. "I'm actually really curious. It's just a pity I got kicked, so I won't get to see it firsthand," Hezo said. "So you don't think he's just bluffing and acting cool?" Lan He asked. "Doesn't seem like it. Maybe because he hasn't chosen a class yet, he dares to go without a priest. In critical moments, he can temporarily take over that role himself," Hezo replied. "Yeah, I think so too. There's no reason for him to waste everyone's time for nothing. Let's give it a try," Lan He said. "All right, I'll leave then." Hezo exited the party. "You and Gui, come over. Most people in the guild have already used up their entries," Deng Huoye said at that moment. Yun Gui had originally been part of their team, but gave up his spot for Lord Grimm and now returned. There was still 1 slot left, but it wasn't easy to find someone among the elites. Most elite players had either already used up their dungeon entries or were on their last run. Seeing Deng Huoye recruiting, the other experts in the guild grew curious. Everyone knew their team already had 3 high damage players online. Why were they still looking for more? "Anyone hasn't done Frost Forest yet? The more aggressive the better. Come quick, we're going for a record." Deng Huoye spammed in guild chat without explaining. "I'll go," someone finally responded. Deng Huoye checked. It was Zhu Ye Qing Cheng, a girl. Female players were rare in elite groups and always welcomed. Teams would fight over the chance to bring her along. It felt like a bonus. Ironically, this meant she never had a fixed team. "Ching Cheng, all right, come over." Deng Huoye sent the coordinates. Yun Gui rejoined Lan He's team. He already knew the situation, but Zhu Ye Qing Cheng was confused. No tank, no healer, and an unfamiliar person whose class didn't even exist? "Dashin, do you think these 2 are suitable?" Deng Huoye mocked Lord Grimm. So yes, you carefully examined them. They'll do. Yuengui was also an elementalist wielding a level 20 purple staff, water spirit staff. Its base stats were similar to the copper staff, but the bonus differed. One boosted flame burst, the other boosted ice snowball. Clearly, the two elementalists specialized in different elements. Juyet Ching was a witch, a branch of the mage class, often called scientists among mages. They use magical tools in combat and even have some melee capability. Her weapon was a level 20 purple quartz rod, not the signature broom. So yes, you couldn't tell her build from the weapon alone. What build? Yes, you asked. Dark physical style, she replied. Do you have Lulu? Yes, you asked. Lulu was a taunt and pool skill for witches. Maxed as I level, she answered. Ah, perfect, yes, you said. Are you satisfied now, great god? Deng Huoye asked sarcastically. All right, let's go, yes, you said. At this point, Juyek Ching still didn't understand what was going on. Then Lan He announced, Listen up, this dungeon run will be commanded by Lord Grimm. You're leading? She was surprised. Yeah, yes, you replied. Why? She asked. To break the record, yes, you said, and stepped into the dungeon. Hey! Lan He tried to stop him, but Lord Grimm had vanished into the forest. Clearly, the timer had started. Lan He felt miserable. They were supposed to discuss strategy before entering. Once inside, time counts. Discussing now wastes precious seconds. The great god has entered. What are you waiting for, mortals? Move, Deng Huoye laughed. I'll deal with you later, Lan He snapped, then hurried in with the others. The mobs in Frost Forest were green goblins, some melee, some ranged, some casters. Unlike the newbie village, the patterns weren't simple. Worse, they all looked identical. Until you engaged, you couldn't tell what type they were. As soon as everyone entered and the timer started, no one wasted time. They rushed forward while listening to Yes Yu's instructions. With a witch here, it's easy. We'll use wave pull. Lan He was startled. Wave pull? How are we doing that? You don't know wave pull? Yes Yu asked back. Of course Lan He knows wave pull. In Glory, wave pull means gathering all mobs and wiping them out in one burst, but it only works in lower level dungeons and requires a strong tank. No one had ever used it in same level content. Wave pull is, I know what wave pull is. What I don't understand is why we're using it, Lan He said. I'll do the raining. I'll just say that part. I'll pull the mobs, then Lulu gathers them, the fire mage uses flame shock, the ice mage uses blizzard, then you might as well have said nothing. Fine. Go pull then. We'll do wave pull. Lan He was practically in tears. He knew the steps, but the key problem was pulling a huge pack of mobs and surviving, and Yes Yu had summarized that with just 4 words. I'll do the raining. Arguing would only waste time. Whatever, if they die, they die. Lan He sent a sweating emoji to express his feelings. The other 3 followed with the same emoji. Even Yes Yu typed a smiling and shouted, Go! Lord Grimm dashed forward. The others watched his back, feeling like they were witnessing a warrior marching to his death. Gotta admit, this guy's brave. I admire him, Thunderclap joked. Keep up, came Yes Yu's voice from ahead. They hurried after him and immediately saw Lord Grimm engaging 2 goblins. One started throwing rocks, the other cast ice arrow. Tragic. First pull and already 2 ranged, the 4 muttered. Rocks and ice arrows flew out. Suddenly, Lord Grimm's body swayed twice. Both projectiles missed him completely. Holy, no way! Zigzag movement? Lan He shouted in shock. Zigzag movement is actually just a directional change during movement, left, right, while lunging forward, ultimately tracing out a zigzag path. But when executed at extremely high speed, the movement range becomes very small. The character changes direction in an instant, so instead of looking like movement, it just looks like a slight body sway. If it's just making the character appear to shake through fast inputs, many players can do it. But being able to use zigzag movement in real combat, that's the mark of a top-tier expert. Using the smallest possible movement to dodge attacks speaks volumes about this player's precision in both execution and judgment. Not just Lan He, even Thunderclap and the others who knew what they were looking at were stunned by this display of skill. Lord Grimm had already rushed up to the 2 goblins. With a raised hand, he struck out. A powerful shockwave burst outward with a loud boom, sending both goblins flying. Level 15 Battle Mage skill, Falling Flower Palm. It has an excellent knockback effect, and with the goblins' light bodies, they were blasted several meters away instantly. Lord Grimm didn't pause. He dashed forward again. Ahead were 2 more goblins. Once he entered their aggro range, they pulled out clubs. Melee types this time. So Lord Grimm didn't get close. He kept sprinting forward. Behind him, the 2 goblins he knocked back had already gotten up. One prepared to throw a rock, the other began casting ice arrow. When Lord Grimm was still about 2 meters away, he drew his battle spear. Bang, bang! The rock throw was interrupted, the ice arrow canceled. He swept his spear sideways, knocking both monsters down, then stepped over them and dashed past. Next target were 2 goblins at the 10 o'clock direction. This time, 1 melee, 1 caster. As the iced arrow was fired, Lord Grim jumped, passing right over the goblin charging with the club. Midair, he thrust his spear, interrupting the caster again, then landed behind it. One goblin turned around, the other chased. Lord Grim raised his hand again, falling flower calm. Both monsters were blasted away, perfectly aligned, crashing straight into the two ranged goblins from earlier. The poor things didn't even get to finish casting before being knocked flat again. Just like that, whether standing guard or patrolling, every goblin was either pulled or struck, completely aggroed. Melee goblins screamed and chased him with clubs, ranged ones busily cast their spells. Frost Forest instantly turned chaotic. Landhay's group chased behind, all hesitating. No one could deny it. Purely in terms of skill, Lord Grim was undeniably incredible. But turning the dungeon into this kind of chaos, it looked more like a max-level player steamrolling a low-level instance. Soon, they lost sight of him entirely. All they could see was a mass of goblins screaming and rushing forward. Where was Lord Grim? They could only confirm two things. One, his HP bar in the party list was still above half. He was alive. And two, they'd occasionally glimpse his figure leaping up and down only to be swallowed by the swarm again. That's over 20 mobs, Young Gui's voice trembled. At level 20, pulling like this? It was insane. Why hasn't he killed them yet? Jiwai Jingzheng was already prepared with Lulu. I just want to know what he's planning next, Thunderclap said, his tone now filled with admiration. What do we do? Don't ask me. I have no idea. About to land hay. Suddenly, Thunderclap started jumping, trying to peek over the mass of monsters. Normally, it looked ridiculous, but no one laughed. What's happening? Landhay asked quickly. The mobs are grouping up really nicely, Thunderclap replied. Huh? Landhay almost jumped too, but as one of the top experts and guild leader, he forced himself to keep his composure. How are they grouping? How would I know? They're just clustering together, Thunderclap said, still hopping. Then suddenly, everyone heard the sound of repeated palm strikes. Falling flower! Damn, that was beautiful, Thunderclap shouted. The goblin formation ahead instantly collapsed. That single falling flower palm sent multiple goblins flying, melee ones crashing backward into ranged ones, causing a chain of knockdowns. The group's view suddenly cleared. At the center stood Lord Grim, right hand gripping a spear, left hand extended forward, coat fluttering, still holding the pose of falling flower palm. Around him lay goblins scared everywhere. That image lasted less than a second, but the imposing figure of Lord Grim burned itself into their minds. The next moment, the fallen goblins got back up, fearless, preparing to charge again. Lord Grim jumped into the air. Thunderclap couldn't resist mocking. What now? Was he going to fly over here? Then, he's flying! He's actually flying! Thunderclap screamed, nearly in tears. After jumping and facing them, Lord Grim suddenly spun 180 degrees midair. A gunshot rang out. His entire body was propelled backward towards them. Everyone immediately recognized it, a gunner aerial movement technique, firing midair and using recoil to propel yourself backward. The stronger the gun, the further the recoil. This shot carried him straight over the heads of the monsters. By the time he landed, he was already behind Landhay's group. The goblins turned as one and surged toward him like a tidal wave, straight toward Landhay's team. Cold sweat broke out on all four of them. Then they heard Lord Grim's calm voice. Mages, attack. Get ready to drop Lulu. They focused and froze in shock. At this exact moment, the ranged goblins were still standing in place casting, the melee ones were charging in, and all the mobs had perfectly surrounded into a circular formation. It was the absolute perfect setup for an AoE wipe. After knocking down the Dark Knight cat demon, Yishu quickly picked up 3 of its claws. Together with the 6 he already had, he now had 9 in total, meeting his requirement, which was quite satisfying. Besides that, he also had 4 Dark Knight cat demon talons. He didn't need those himself, but someone else surely would. After helping those guys break the dungeon record, asking for a trade should be no problem. With that in mind, Yishu had Lord Grim leave the dungeon. Meanwhile, Soft Mist had already logged out. After resting for 10 minutes to remove the near-death status, he returned to the newbie village and used up all 1,225 skill points. Players at level 20 normally have 1,250 skill points, but thanks to a skill book, Lord Grim had an extra 5 points, slightly ahead of others. Once his skills were set, he immediately left the newbie village and officially stepped onto the Glory continent. From this point on, the system no longer helped distribute player traffic. The area around Frost Forest was packed with players. Many dungeons in Glory didn't have fixed entrances. Frost Forest itself was the dungeon, and players could enter from any direction. Where are you guys? I'm at Frost Forest, Yishu asked. The outside of Frost Forest was bustling. After leaving the newbie village, trading activity had begun, and the outskirts of Frost Forest had become the first marketplace. Many players had set up stalls. Yishu browsed a couple of them, but prices were all over the place. Inexperienced players overpriced items out of fear of losing out, while knowledgeable players didn't sell rare materials at this stage, only level 20 equipment. Those items appealed to players who leveled through quests, since quests only rewarded green gear, one tier below blue gear, like Lord Grimm, who leveled through dungeons and was already fully equipped in blue gear. After checking a few stalls and finding nothing useful, Blue River sent coordinates. Yishu hurried over. Soon, Lord Grimm appeared in the sight of Blue River's team. The four of them took a deep breath. The top expert they valued looked incredibly unconventional. What kind of bizarre mix was this? They stared at Lord Grimm's equipment. Gloria didn't allow players to inspect others' gear, so identification relied on visual judgment. Lord Grimm was wearing a mix of cloth, leather, chain, heavy, and light armor, all 5 types. This was common in the newbie village, but not on the main continent. At level 20, players had already chosen their class, and each class specialized in specific equipment types. While exceptions existed, no one dressed like Lord Grimm, from head to toe in all 5 types. While the 4 were still stunned, Yishu moved Lord Grimm over, put on his headset, and tested the mic. Testing, testing. Got it, Blue River replied. Hello, everyone, Yishu greeted. Hello. Let me introduce System Pearl, Flowing Light Knight, Thunderclap, the top elites of Blue Brook Guild. Nice to meet you all. Give me a moment. Sorry, Yishu said, then suddenly stopped moving. While Lord Grimm stood idle, the other 3 spammed messages in the team chat. You sure you picked the wrong guy? Flowing Light Knight asked. Nonsense. He hasn't even chosen a class, Thunderclap said. He said he'd think about it later. With this setup, can he really help us break the record? Flowing Light Knight doubted. If not, then forget it. A goal is just to test his skill level, Blue River said. Don't know about his skill, but I can tell how deep his idea is, Thunderclap joked. What do you mean? Lord Grimm sounds like don't laugh. Maybe he's here to be a joke, Thunderclap laughed. Don't judge by appearances. He hasn't picked a class yet, so this is normal, Blue River said. Even he sounded unsure. Is he planning to play unspecialized? System Pearl suddenly asked. Unspecialized? That playstyle is outdated. Didn't it get stuck at level 50 since there's no awakening quest? Back then, when Glory's 3rd server opened, the level cap increased from 50 to 55, but to level beyond 50, players needed to complete a class awakening quest. Unspecialized characters had no awakening, so they were stuck at level 50 forever. The gap only widens with future updates, making the playstyle obsolete. Maybe he plans to switch classes at 50, Flowing Light Knight guessed. But wouldn't that mess up stat growth? Thunderclap wondered. Who even cares about that anymore? Flowing Light Knight said. They fell silent. None of them had ever encountered such a case in years. Why guess? Just ask him, Flowing Light Knight said, stepping forward. Hey, not picking a class, planning to go unspecialized? No response. Hey, you there? He called. He said to wait, probably not here, Blue River replied. If he's unspecialized, does he carry all weapons? Thunderclap circled Lord Grimm curiously. Lord Grimm's hands were empty. His weapon, Myriad Manifestation's umbrella, was currently in the equipment editor. Inside the editor, the umbrella's blueprint was displayed in multiple pages due to its complexity. At that moment, Yishu carefully took out Dark Knight Cat Demon Claws and began inserting them into the umbrella's rib tips, one by one. Quick, attack! Blue River shouted. The hardest part of a one-wave clear is gathering the mobs, and this classless guy had done it effortlessly. But wiping them all at once wasn't easy. It couldn't be done with just a couple of spells. Thunderclap and Returning Cloud didn't hesitate. One cast Flame Shock, the other Blizzard. Flame Shock erupted instantly, sending a pillar of fire over 3 meters high. Blizzard followed, raining down ice and snow continuously for 4 seconds. Lulu, Yishu called. Dancing Moon quickly threw Lulu into the center of the mobs. The doll pulled all aggro within a radius, but it didn't last long. Its HP was low and it was quickly destroyed. All right, Yishu said as Lord Grimm rushed forward. Switching to Tanvas, he grabbed a goblin and slammed it into the ground, knocking others down. Swordsman, prepare Silver Light Falling Blade. Release, now! Blue River reacted instantly, leaping high and striking down perfectly, knocking the mobs down again. Dark Cloak. Dancing Moon cast it, compressing the goblins together again. Flame Shock. The cooldown was up, another blast hit just as the goblin stood up. Only then did Blue River realize this was a control chain. A master. A true master. Using skills not designed for control to create a perfect control loop, executing a one-wave clear in an equal level dungeon. At this point, as long as no one made errors, the clear was guaranteed. Under Lord Grimm's command, they continued flawlessly. The goblins struggled but couldn't fight back. Soon, loot spread across the ground, over 20 goblins wiped in one wave. Move, keep going, Yishu said casually, as if it was nothing. The others hurried after him. Ignoring the loot, the price of breaking the record mattered more. Outside the dungeon, Flowing Light Knight messaged. How's it going? Still alive? God tier player. Absolute God tier. What are you talking about? One wave clear. One wave clear. What nonsense. We're doing a one wave clear in Frost Forest. You're kidding. Wait till we make the announcement. Haha. Flowing Light Knight stared blankly, then closed the chat. They're doing a one wave clear, he told System Pearl. One wave clear? System Pearl was stunned. The dungeon clear speed skyrocketed to an astonishing level, and Blue River couldn't help but smile in delight. On Yeshu's side, he also felt more at ease. Compared to Tianqi and Yu Chengmian's group, Blue River's 4 teammates were far superior in both gear and skill. After being guided through one wave clear, they no longer needed constant instructions. Once they understood the idea, they could judge situations and act on their own. With just 2 one-wave clears, all the mobs along the path in Frost Forest were wiped out. Blue River glanced at the time. Not even 5 minutes had passed. The mobs were no longer a concern. The next challenge was the boss. The first boss, the Goblin Patrol, was stronger than normal goblins and wielded a spiked club with extremely high physical damage. It didn't have flashy skills, but just standing there and swinging its weapon was enough to overwhelm many teams. The reason was simple. With the standard strategy of letting a tank hold aggro, surviving such high damage required sufficient stats. Otherwise, it came down to skill. And skill wasn't something everyone had. Without meeting the requirements, only top players could handle it. Ordinary players would just end up whiting. When it came to skill, Blue River had no doubts about Lord Grimm. Anyone who could pull over 20 goblins at level 20 clearly had the mechanics. What worried him wasn't whether Lord Grimm could survive the boss, but whether he could hold aggro steadily. One mistake in the boss's club would smash into a mage, an instant kill. I'll pull the boss. You guys go all out, Yeshi said. How many seconds should we wait? Blue River asked, professionally. Tanks usually took a few seconds to build aggro before letting others attack. No need to wait. Attack as soon as I pull, Yeshi replied. Attack immediately? All 4 were shocked. We're going for a record. Every second counts. I'm pulling, Yeshu said, already charging forward. Blue River and the others were startled, but stayed focused. Since they had saved so much time on mobs, they figured they just needed a stable boss fight. So they held back, watching as Lord Grimm rushed in and attacked. Dragon Tooth, Sky Strike, Chain Stab, Launch, Thrust, Sky Strike again. What are you waiting for? Hearing the shout, the 4 snapped out of it. From the moment Lord Grimm engaged, the Goblin Patrol had been juggled in the air continuously. This was an infinite aerial combo. They'd unconsciously been watching, curious how long he could keep it going, when the boss would finally drop. But this wasn't a show. They hurriedly cast spells, used items, and charged in. Flames, ice, star projectiles, sword light, attacks flowed in perfect coordination. No one blocked each other's line of sight, yet each of them held back slightly, worried about pulling aggro. Even though Lord Grimm told them to go all out, he wasn't a professional tank. Classes like Knights had aggro control skills even before level 20. Lord Grimm, being classless, could learn those skills, but lacked the proper weapon bonuses to use them effectively. So they played cautiously until they heard, full damage, you won't pull aggro. Seeing his confidence, they had no choice but to trust him. Gritting their teeth, they unleashed everything. In Glory, there was no visible aggro meter. These were all elite players. They knew their limits. Before, they feared pulling aggro. Now, they wanted to. Not pulling aggro almost felt like being a fake expert. Yet, the Goblin Patrol never looked at any of them. Its attacks remained locked on to Lord Grimm, and Lord Grimm moved constantly, never standing still, yet never interrupting his attacks. He circled the boss endlessly, attacking while evading. Blue River, being a DPS himself, was stunned. Against system-controlled bosses, this movement only served to dodge attacks, but in PvP, it would completely disorient an opponent. Clearly, this guy was also a top-tier PvP player. Eventually, the Goblin Patrol fell, never once acknowledging the other 4. Blue River couldn't hold back. Bro, how do you hold aggro so steadily? Just deal more damage than you guys, Yeshi replied. Blue River froze. Returning Cloud was speechless. Dancing Moon quickly didn't know what to say. Thunderclap mocked. So he's not just the tank, he's also the top DPS. The 4 nearly cried. That's right, he simply hit harder than all of them. Lord Grimm didn't stop and moved on to the next mobs. The 4 chatted quietly behind him. He actually deals more damage than us, Returning Cloud muttered. And by a lot, otherwise aggro wouldn't be this stable, Dancing Moon quickly added. I admit his skill is insane, but to hold aggro like this, his attack must be ridiculously high. Anyone know what that spear is? Blue River asked. No idea. Looks weird, like a giant garlic, Thunderclap said. You grow garlic like that? It's called exaggeration, okay? Shut up, Returning Cloud scoffed. Focus, he's pulling again. Ahead, Lord Grim had already started another one-wave clear. No one dared to relax. Even though they had succeeded twice, they knew how risky it was. One mistake could break the control chain completely. Pull, gather, wipe. They executed perfectly again. After 2 more waves, they cleared all mobs leading to the second boss. This time, the 4 didn't hold back. They went all out from the start. And the result, once again, they ended up quietly following Lord Grim. So fast! We're definitely breaking the record, Thunderclap said excitedly. And by a lot, Blue River added. This feels amazing, Returning Cloud grinned. I don't even know what to say anymore, Dancing Moon quickly sighed. At this point, there was nothing left worth mentioning. The final boss of the Frost Forest is the Goblin Lord, Frost Zane. From its reputation alone, you could tell that this dungeon boss was far more valuable than the hidden bosses back in the beginner village. Zane's figure wasn't much different from ordinary goblins, but his face looked far more sinister, like he was constantly plotting something. At the very least, he didn't have the comical bright green nose typical of normal goblins. Instead, his entire body was a deep blue, and when he turned his head, even without any expression, he somehow looked almost cute. But every player knew very well he was anything but cute. In his right hand, Frost Zane held an ice blade nearly as tall as his own short body. When he swung it, waves of cold wind followed, reaching even farther than a player's visible range. Because of his unique attack patterns, the main tank, MT, pulling aggro, would always be heavily pressured. That's why most Frost Forest guides recommended bringing 2 MTs to ease the burden when dealing with both the Patrol Goblin and Frost Zane. As for Ye Shu, he had never been the type to rely on guides. Glancing at the 4 players beside him, he simply said, "Go," and Lord Grim rushed forward with his spear. That was also because the quality of his teammates was high. If it were Tianchi and the others, he'd have to explain far more and micromanage constantly during the fight. Compared to that, Blue River's group required much less effort. The 4 followed without hesitation. Lord Grim charged in first, drawing Frost Zane's attention. The boss moved far faster than ordinary goblins. His short legs spun like wheels as he closed the distance in an instant. And then, in the very next second, Frost Zane was launched into the air. Impressive. Blue River and the others silently watched, silently impressed. It was just 1 strike, but against a boss with that speed and agility, landing such a hit was no easy feat. Against this boss, pulling aggro properly was already difficult. If it had been their usual MT, Deng Hui Ye, he'd typically land a hit only on the 3rd attempt, then follow up with a small combo to stabilize aggro, which was already considered excellent performance. In a normal team, the MT might struggle endlessly and still fail to hold aggro, often losing it to the healer instead. Meanwhile, Lord Grim had already launched Frost Zane into the air and chained multiple follow-up attacks, forming a continuous aerial combo. But Frost Zane was a famous boss. Did they really think he could be controlled that easily? A flash of blue light appeared midair, and suddenly, he vanished. Blue River's group wasn't surprised. Frost Zane had teleportation. They were just about to locate his new position when, thud, a hit sound rang out. Turning to look, they saw Lord Grim's spear still relentlessly stabbing Frost Zane's body. Blue River and the others froze, then glanced back at the original position. A Lord Grim clone stood there. Shadow clone. They immediately recognized it. Skills like this were nothing new to them. What shocked them wasn't the skill, but the fact that Lord Grim had predicted Frost Zane's teleport destination on the very first attempt. They all felt a chill. Yes, Frost Zane gave off subtle casting cues before teleporting, just like a mage casting spells. But those cues lasted only a split second, and yet Lord Grim still read them perfectly. Wasn't that something that existed in theory? Teleport had a cooldown. After using it once, Frost Zane was forced into a passive state under Lord Grim's relentless assault. After so long as a boss, he'd probably never been bullied like this. Every attempt to attack or cast was interrupted before completion. Let's go. Blue River realized he'd once again fallen into spectator mode. He quickly called out and led the charge. Normally, fighting Frost Zane was a delicate balancing act of aggro. With only 1 MT, their team needed precise judgment to avoid aggro loss. But now, with Lord Grim dealing overwhelming DPS and completely suppressing the boss, they had no such worries. Even though the boss wasn't targeting them, they still missed occasionally. Frost Zane was simply too fast and unpredictable, not the kind of boss that stood still once aggro was secured. Teleport again. And again. Blue River's group cursed under their breath. Every time the boss teleported off cooldown, Lord Grim matched it instantly with his own movement using shadow techniques. The result? Only Blue River and the others were left awkwardly adjusting their movement paths again and again. Careful, red HP soon, Yeshu suddenly said in a serious tone. Got it. They had already noticed. When Frost Zane entered red HP, he would gain super armor while casting, making him immune to normal interruption. His speed would also increase, and he could instantly summon an ice tornado, deadly to anyone nearby. Fall back! Blue River suddenly saw the boss's eyes flash with killing intent. Frost Zane swung his blade, and the ice tornado was about to form. He immediately shouted and retreated. The others, being range classes, weren't as pressured, but they still stayed alert. The tornado had no fixed aggro target and would move freely once formed. But then, boom! No tornado appeared. Instead, Frost Zane was slammed face first into the ground. Knockdown. Lord Grim had used Knockdown, a skill capable of breaking a boss's super armor state. Why are you running? Haven't you learned Rising Slash? Yeshu asked casually. Blue River knew that was directed at him. Rising Slash was a Ghost Blade skill that could break super armor. Since it was under level 20, sword masters like him could learn it, even at level 1 just for utility. Of course, it could interrupt super armor during casting, but this was Frost Zane, the boss that could easily switch aggro to the healer if something went wrong. Who would dare gamble the entire team on landing that one precise interrupt? Blue River actually wasn't completely lacking confidence, but the risk of messing up and ruining everything made him choose the safer option. Feeling embarrassed, he shamelessly replied, haven't learned it yet. Laughter broke out. The others understood his reasoning, so they didn't tease him much. You should learn it. Breaking super armor is really useful, Yeshu said. I know, just didn't have enough skill points yet. I'll add a level when we're back, Blue River replied, face burning. Being taught basic mechanics like this, it was honestly a bit humiliating. Blue River replied resentfully and continued attacking, secretly hoping that when Frost Zane unleashed his ultimate again, he could throw out a Rising Slash to redeem his dignity. Unfortunately, he had just claimed he hadn't learned it. If he suddenly used it now, how would he explain it? That he had somehow learned it without noticing? Damn, too clumsy. Just thinking about it made Blue River blush. The greatest threat after Frost Zane's enraged phase was completely neutralized by Lord Grim's overwhelmingly confident performance. The boss had no more tricks left. Under the brutal assault of the 5 players, it finally collapsed. Equipment dropped, but Blue River's group didn't care at all. They were all staring at the system message window. Congratulations to players Blue River, Thunderclap, Lord Grim, Yungui, and Moonlit Enchantress of Bluebrook Guild for breaking the Frost Forest dungeon record with a time of 20 minutes, 24 seconds, 11. Having experienced the entire run themselves, Blue River and the others already knew from the moment the first wave of monsters was wiped out that as long as nothing went wrong, breaking the record was inevitable. The result itself wasn't surprising, but the magnitude of it left them exhilarated. The previous record was 26 minutes, 12 seconds, 48, held by Herb Garden. Their run was over 5 minutes faster. Records like this didn't usually improve by such huge margins. With their experience, they knew records were typically broken many times, each improvement shaving off about a minute at most. Jumping ahead by 5 minutes in one go like this, it was completely abnormal. Compared to them, other players who saw the system announcement were utterly shocked. Tianqi and his group had just reached level 20, left the beginner village, and entered Frost Forest with a 5th member. They were still struggling inside, not even halfway through when the announcement appeared. They froze. The newbie, Shen Yu, shouted excitedly, "Look, it's the expert! The expert is on TV!" New players picked up the term on TV very quickly. Yeah, that's right, Tianqi's group replied gloomily, hearts filled with bitterness. They knew Bluebrook Guild was one of the top 3 guilds in glory. Only a top-tier guild like that was worthy of a true expert. As for a second-rate team like theirs, being carried onto the announcement twice was already something they should be satisfied with, right? While the 3 of them were feeling down, Shen Yu continued muttering, "Frost Forest, isn't that the dungeon we're doing?" "Yeah," Tianqi said. 20 minutes? We've been playing for 20 minutes too. How far are we now?" "Halfway," Tianqi replied depressed. See, this was the downside of knowing a top expert. Comparing themselves like this made their own performance feel completely inadequate. It could even make people question the game itself. This was dangerous. Their 5th teammate, a priest named Endless Night, had been silently healing the whole time. Hearing their conversation, he suddenly spoke. "So your record run was mostly thanks to that guy." Tianqi froze. The 3 of them had all been on the announcement before, and new players like Shen Yu had admired them for it. That created pressure when forming teams. People would assume they were amazing, but without the expert, how could they possibly live up to that image? Now the awkward moment had finally arrived. Yeah, it was all thanks to him, Tianqi admitted. Damn, I knew it. I've been running with you guys for 20 minutes and didn't see anything impressive. Endless Night said bluntly. Hey, that's a bit too direct. The more honest they were, the more embarrassed they felt. All right. From now on, listen to my commands. Endless Night suddenly became energetic. Why? Everyone asked. I'm Endless Night, a top player from Tyrannical Ambition. I was just testing you guys before. That's why I kept quiet. Honestly, your command's a mess. Let me handle it. What the hell? Tianqi, the original leader, felt miserable. Who was this guy? What kind of expert introduces himself like that? Compared to Lord Grimm, who proved everything through actions, this guy was the complete opposite. No need, Tianqi refused, not intimidated by the name Tyrannical Ambition. Come on, bro, let's clear this dungeon quickly. I've got things to do. Let me do it. I'm begging you. Fine, go ahead. Tianqi finally gave in. What kind of expert was this? Completely shattering the image of the word. All right, from now on, follow my lead. In the blink of an eye, Endless Night even switched his equipment, pulling out a shining silver cross-shaped medal, clearly something high-end. Damn, this guy's been acting the whole time, Tianqi's group finally realized. While commanding, Endless Night also sent a message to his guild. Got it wrong. In that record team, only Lord Grimm is the real expert. The rest are just fillers. Too late. Blue Brook Guild already recruited him. They improved the record by 5 minutes. Definitely because of him. Sigh. Endless Night sighed. What are you doing now? Helping these fake experts clear the dungeon, damn it. At the same time, the original record-holding team from Herb Garden was also in an uproar. 20 minutes, 24 seconds, 11? What the hell? That's insane. Blue River doesn't have that kind of skill. Carrot, or Cart Pusher, the team leader, who had previously set the record, said, It's that Lord Grimm guy. He must have joined them. That's why their strength jumped. Damn it, I'm asking Blue River right now, Carrot said, immediately sending a message. As top players from major guilds, they all knew each other from the Heavenly Domain, and had all added everyone else's friends long ago. Hey, didn't notice you guys got yourself a top expert, Carrot messaged. Haha, admit it now, admit it. 20.24.11, can you beat that when you hit level 25? Blue River replied smugly. He might get pressured when facing true experts, but outside, this was pure glory. So satisfying. When Blue River and the others came out of the dungeon, He Zhou and Deng Huaye were still waiting outside. Ever since the team appeared on the system announcement, the two of them had been completely convinced. They had originally been part of that team and fully understood its strength. They were absolutely certain the 5-minute improvement was entirely because of Lord Grimm. Deng Huaye, who had been quite skeptical of Lord Grimm before, now felt rather embarrassed. After hesitating for a while, he awkwardly said, You really are a god-tier player. Respect. Sorry for earlier. Meanwhile, He Zhou was asking Thunderclap about what happened inside the dungeon. Thunderclap spoke with great enthusiasm, practically spitting as he talked. Yan Gui and Moonlit Enchantress kept glancing at him. Damn, is he exaggerating that much? At this rate, the dungeon would only take 10 minutes. All right, the dungeon record has been broken, Yeshu said to Blue River. Yeah, amazing, really amazing, Blue River replied repeatedly. About that, Yeshu trailed off. I'm here. The items, Yeshu reminded. The items? Oh, right, I got too excited and forgot. He Zhou, the stuff. Blue River hadn't carried the items himself. Once he was sure the record would be broken, he had asked He Zhou to go fetch them. In Glory, movement, jumping, and attack speed were all affected by character weight. So for peak performance, whether dungeon runs or PvP, players tried to keep their load as light as possible. He Zhou opened a trade with Lord Grimm. Yeshu accepted. On the trade panel were 72 strong spider silks, 2 mithril metals, 8 white wolf fangs. What's this? Yeshu was puzzled. This was clearly his original asking price, not the negotiated one. Well, you improved the record by 5 whole minutes in one run. Who knows how much trouble you saved us? Oh, I see. Yeshu laughed helplessly. He hadn't wanted these materials for money. Everything was for crafting the Mighty Manifestations umbrella. He originally only needed 24 spider silks, but had asked for 72 to leave room for bargaining. He had calculated everything carefully, yet now they willingly gave him all 72. Free stuff, who would refuse? Besides, Blue River's reasoning made sense. A 5-minute improvement saved them countless future attempts competing with other guilds. Thanks, Yeshu said. No need to be polite. About that, Blue River had just started speaking when he suddenly went crazy. Withdrawn? This guy actually left the guild immediately after receiving the items. Blue River had been planning to recruit him properly. Giving so many materials wasn't just payment, it was also an attempt to win over a top-tier expert. I knew it, Blue River thought bitterly. Negotiating terms had turned it into a transaction. Recruiting an expert should have been about building a relationship. What were you saying? Yeshu asked casually after leaving the guild. Stay in touch when you have time. Let's cooperate more in the future, Blue River replied weakly. Sure, Yeshi replied. Want to run more dungeons? Need people? Just say the word. I'll call them, Blue River offered. Not for now. I've got other things to do. I'm heading off. All right, bye-bye. Blue River watched Lord Grim leave with tears in his eyes. The others had already seen the system message. Lord Grim has left the guild. They were still shocked when he disappeared. Why did he leave? Yangui asked. He finished the job, so he left, Blue River replied irritably. Why didn't you keep him? Hazo asked. With his skill level, his speed at leaving the guild was faster than I could finish talking. Was that even about operation speed? Everyone stared at him speechlessly. Blue River must have been so angry he lost his mind. To recruit someone like him, you can't just rely on benefits. With his level, whatever he helps with is worth the reward you give him, so he won't go easy on the price. You need to build a relationship. Exactly, that's what I was thinking, but somehow, Blue River explained, how he had turned what should have been a bonding dungeon run into a business transaction. Why not try the beauty strategy? Tell the boss to send some pretty girls over. Then coordinate with Moonlit Enchantress. Silence. Moonlit Enchantress was speechless, just quietly watching the direction where Lord Grim had disappeared. You've been staring that way. Don't tell me you... Deng Hua Ye circled her twice. Can't wait to make your move? Thunderclap teased. Ignoring them, Moonlit Enchantress said calmly, Don't you think that guy is a bit too strong? Everyone froze, then fell silent. We're considered gaozhou, high-level players in Glory, right? Even if we're not, Blue River definitely is, but his level is clearly higher than ours. So what level is he? It's been a long time since I played on a low-level account, Blue River admitted. We're all on low-level accounts, she reminded. His weapon is better than mine. I think it's orange tier, Blue River said. He hasn't even changed class yet, she added. In short, everyone had advantages, but his overall performance still surpassed them. Fine, I admit it, his skill is probably above mine, Blue River sighed. But there are so many players in Glory, it's not strange for hidden experts to exist. We've seen this before, like Willow by the Shore. At that name, everyone fell silent. Because they all knew that name made Blue River uncomfortable. This was a rising expert in Blue Brook Guild, previously unknown but recently showing extremely strong performance in high-level dungeons. With the guild's support, his equipment kept improving. People had already begun discussing whether to update the guild's top 5 experts, and the one most often compared to Willow by the Shore was Blue Bridge Spring Snow, which was Blue River's main account, because they were both swordmasters. Swordmasters with their martial arts style were extremely popular in Glory. And Willow by the Shore wasn't subtle about it either. He often bragged in guild chat, records he broke, achievements he earned, people he defeated in the arena, and how many enemies he fought alone in the wild, clearly trying to compete with Blue Bridge Spring Snow. The only thing left was a direct challenge, and now Blue River had been sent to develop the new server. Within the guild, rumors were already spreading. This was to make way for Willow by the Shore and deliberately push Blue River aside.